third thing you want, there's some bloopers for you. I'm super excited because on today's show, Apple's CEO Tim Cook will be giving us his 7 super tips.
First of all, I think leadership is fluid. There's I think some people get tripped up on that leadership is a sort of a static thing, or that the manager is the leader. And we don't run Apple like that. And so leadership moves and goes to and fro, because the truth is that depending upon what a team is doing, the person to lead may change. And so sometimes this person may be leading, sometimes they may be in a supportive role. And so I actually think it's very important that everyone have leadership skills. That it's not just for people that want to manage or want the people management side. People that want to stay in a pure technical field need leadership skills to do well. Someone that feels shy, right? Or I'm introverted. Introverts need to lead. Extroverts need to lead. Everybody needs to learn basic leadership skills because it's core in moving your business forward. And so I think leadership is essential. Leadership is about people. Leadership is about how you communicate. Leadership is sitting in a meeting when there's 5 of you around the table and 3 people are talking a lot but 1 is quiet. Leadership is asking that person that's quiet what they're thinking, because there may be a reason they're not speaking. Maybe it's the only person, maybe it's the only woman in the room. That happens all too often in the tech field. Maybe it's someone that just feels shy on that topic or whatever. Or maybe it's someone that has a different opinion that doesn't want to express it. So I think leadership is drawing out people because it's the combination of people that amplify performance. None of us have an S on our chest and a cape on our back. None of us do. The only way that we do great work is if we collectively do our best work and amplify each other. And so to me, leadership is that amplification. It's figuring out everything you need to do with the people you work with to amplify their performance. And it's maybe different for one person versus the other, right? We're all different. I think you should rarely follow the rules. I think you should write the rules. I think if you do follow things in a formulaic manner, you will wind up at best being the same as everybody else. Maybe you miss something and you're a little worse. And if you want to excel, you can't do that. I've watched a lot of companies do that, and I think that's a rotten strategy. Maybe they'll be good for a few months or something, and so I think you need to write your own rules. I keep this voice in my ear that says, "This too shall pass. This too shall pass." And I have faith that it will. There will be times that you fail on a spectacular basis. I've certainly done it more than once. And in some ways, I have little failures every day, right? But you have to have the faith that it will pass, that it's not detrimental. And the only thing you have to do to remember that is to look in the mirror and watch the person breathe. It didn't kill you. You're not dead. And so it's not the biggest thing in the world. It will pass. And I do that many times a day sometimes when things aren't going well. I remember that they will pass. And once you do that for a while, you won't have to remind yourself anymore. you will be able to take these failures, and in fact, you'll kind of view them not as failures anymore. You'll start calling them things you learned. It won't be so detrimental anymore. And that is exactly how it is for me. I spend almost all of my time on people, strategy, and execution. And I think that most everything else falls from those. If you have the most brilliant people, wicked smart people that collaborate well together, if you set in our case, we're all about products. So our strategy is very product oriented. If that strategy is right, and if you're executing like crazy, there's some things that still arise, but if you get those three right, then the world is a great place. We could be here all night, and probably all week, and maybe a month. I learned that focus is key. Apple has a culture of excellence that is, I think, so unique and so special. You know, I'm not going to witness or permit the change of it. He also taught me that the joy is in the journey, and which is a revelation for me. And I think he taught all of us that life is fragile. We're very simple people at Apple. We focus on making the world's best product and enriching people's lives. I think some companies, maybe even the one that you mentioned, maybe they decided that they could do everything. We have to make sure at Apple that we stay true to focus, laser focus. We can only do great things a few times, only on a few products. People will tell you, never stop, failure is never final. That's not true. Failure, you have to recognize when something that you're working on is pushing on a wall. And let me give you an example of or one that was actually pretty big at Apple at the time. We shipped a product called the Cube. Some of you may remember it if you followed Apple a lot. It was a very important product to us. We put a lot of love into it. We put enormous engineering into it. It was an engineering marvel. It was a spectacular failure commercially. I mean, from the first day almost. And within 3 months, we withdrew it. And so we had to look at ourselves in the mirror and saying, we missed this one. And I think it's important to be able to do that. It's important to be able, something that you were so passionate about, and this was another thing Steve taught me actually, that you're so passionate about, you've sold it to everybody, you've got to be willing to look yourself in the mirror and say, I was wrong. It's not right. And so how do you identify which ones to keep pushing on and which ones not? There's not a clear answer. What I would say that the top thing to do is be intellectually honest. I see so many people when they commit themselves to something that they have their pride will not allow them to say this just doesn't work. Because they think about who they told, and their friends are all going to say they're failures, and their parents are going to say they're failures, and their business colleagues. And failure is a common thing. It's like the common cold. We just don't all like to admit it all the time, but it's that common. And so I do think it's very important to make sure you're constantly being intellectually honest and you've got the courage to change. Steve, of everyone I have known in life, could be the most avid proponent of some position And within minutes or days, if new information came up, you would think that he never ever thought that before. Talking about moving the hat, he was a pro at this. And at first, I thought, wow, he really flip-flops. And then all of a sudden, I saw the beauty in it. Because he wasn't getting stuck like so many other people do when they just say, I've got to keep going on, my pride, you know? So be intellectually honest and have the courage to change.
That's it for today's 7 Super Tips. I'm your host, Erik Qualman. A lot of you know me as Equalman. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below, and I hope you got a lot of today's show from Tim Cook. And remember, until next time, it's not what we take from the world, it's what we leave behind. So as you approach the career fair, I'm going to give you 4 tips that I use when in school. Yep. The second thing you need to do is LinkedIn URL. Oops, you want to have your LinkedIn URL. Or you want to list out where you can be found on LinkedIn. You want to have your website, your LinkedIn website. You want to have your LinkedIn web address. You want to have your LinkedIn address printed on there.